hit it.
Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to Alzheimer Speaks Radio. I'm your host, Lori LeBay, and I'm so excited that you're joining us today. We are going to have a fascinating conversation as usual as we learn from people all around the world at all ages and stages of life. Stay tuned as we shift our dementia care from crisis to comfort.
All right, here we go. What you think about, you will bring about some mental change. We will bring
Well, hi, everyone, and welcome back to Alzheimer Speaks Radio. I'm thrilled you're joining us today. We're going to have a great conversation. We're going to learn about a new initiative launched by Lyngblomsten called the Memory Collective. But for those of you that are new, I always like to tell you a little bit about us. Alzheimer Speaks Radio is really about sound information, not just sound bites. So we have a conversation for an hour, and today we're a live show, so feel free to call in at 323-870-4602. Our goal is to raise all voices, big and small, all around the world. So that means those diagnosed, those caring and serving them, advocates, researchers, and so much more. If you think your story would be something of interest, please reach out to me at radio@alzheimerspeaks.com. And also, if you liked our opening music, it's called Clarion Call by the Mark Arneson Band, and they are local here in Minnesota, and I am just so appreciative that they let us use their song. Now, before I introduce you to our guest, I always like to do a few shout-outs. So first, I want to just let people know, I know we're still feeling isolated, even though some of the masks have come off, but I'm doing 2 virtual memory cafes for Arthur's Senior Care. We do those the second and the fourth Wednesday of each month, and those are virtual. And then I also am doing a Caregiver Connect program, which is sponsored by Brookdale North Oaks. And this month we're going to meet virtually again. That is the last Wednesday of the month. Hopefully in April we will be back together. When we meet in person, Brookdale also sponsors someone to watch and engage those living with dementia. So that does not have to be an issue for anyone there. Also, on April 6th, I'm really excited about this. Our friends are having their documentary on PBS. It's called Determined, Fighting Alzheimer's, and it followed 3 women as they enrolled in a new study to try to prevent Alzheimer's. And you have to excuse my voice. My allergies are not knowing what to do. It should be spring, and we might actually get snow or sleet yet today here in Minnesota. Let's see. And then Winona Dementia Friendly Communities is having a whole week of activities, and they've invited me down. So I will be in Winona doing 2 screenings of A Timeless Love on April 7th and April 8th. Then on the 20th of April, Artist Senior Living is sponsoring a virtual program I'll be doing called As the Cookie Crumbles. And let's see, what else do I want you to know about? Mods Awards is open. So if you are an individual or if you are an organization, you can apply to win an award for work you've already done. The application process is very easy. You can just go to modsawards.org for more information on that. And let's see, 2 more things. There is going to be a dementia summit with Dr. Dale Bredesen and Dr. Pat Cook, which is sponsored by the Central Minnesota Dementia Community Action Network, known as DCAN, and it is free if you want to go in person or virtually. But if you need credits, there is a charge for that. All of these you can find on our website, or you can also go to dementiamap.com and check out all the wonderful resources that we have there as well. So, with no further ado, let me introduce our guest today. I am so thrilled to have her with us. I respect her so highly. Carolyn Klavera has been a nurse for 38 years, but she's also a friend and a colleague, and her passion and her heart to care for people dealing with dementia and their families is just extraordinary. She has actually served as a Dementia Specialty Coach for caregivers and has coordinated cognitive and social stimulation for people with forms of dementia for 17 years. She works for Lyngblomsten, and she is the co-developer of a new program called the Memory Collective. And that is for those in early on in the dementia journey. And it offers activities with their peers in an 8-week-long program that runs quarterly. So welcome, Caroline. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Very happy to be here. Thank you.
Well, I am so thrilled to have you on the show. I so appreciate the work you do and the heart you have for it. You are, such a passionate and compassionate person. Again, I want to remind our audience this is a live show. So if you want to call in, you can do that. The number is 323-870-4602. I know a lot of you listen after, and that is perfectly fine as well. But before I ask Carolyn any questions regarding the program, I want to ask her so that you know if she's been personally touched by dementia in her own family or circle of friends.
Yes, Lori, I unfortunately have, and yet I will tell you that they were people that I love very dearly right to the end. I have 3 of my 4 parents had dementia. My father had vascular dementia. My father-in-law had Parkinson's and Lewy body dementia. My mother also had Parkinson's syndrome and Lewy body dementia. I have 2 first cousins that before they were 65, one had frontal temporal dementia and has since passed, and another has had Alzheimer's for many, 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 many years. So unfortunately, I have all of the top 4 dementias near to me.
Wow, that's a lot. I still get every now and then some people who haven't been touched other than the work that they do. And, everybody kind of holds their breath and they're the first to say, they're just waiting for that shoe to drop because they know the numbers are very likely that it will touch their inner circle as well. So thank you for sharing that. I think sometimes, our listeners feel they're all alone. No one else is going through that. And we are all touched on a lot of different levels and a lot of different roles when it comes to dementia. So, again, appreciate that information. Now, we're here to talk about the Memory Collective. So let's start out with who the heck is it for to begin with?
So I have worked with people in early to middle stage dementia and in the beginning of the late stage for a long time. For a year, I ran an early memory loss group as a pilot. And as I was looking at this group, because the Memory Collective does not require an assessment. It's an enrichment program, and people that feel they are interested in it sign up for it on their own through our website. And so I really struggled with how to describe who, because I don't think in the early stages, I know that not all people have memory loss per se. So the who that I try to describe this for are the people who are earlier in their symptoms. They maybe haven't been diagnosed, but they can tell there's a change in how they're thinking and working on things. So they may have mild cognitive impairment, or they are people that have skill changes, which might be memory, language, visual perception, or processing. Want to catch them early on in their dementia journey. Very important to me.
Okay, wonderful. And I think that's, one of those big gaps, too, that we've been hearing about for years about what about us, just because we're not having major issues and we can still function at certain levels and still be engaged doesn't mean that we don't want support either. And to know that there's other people like them, I think just getting that peer group together in and of itself is miraculously helpful to so many individuals.
Absolutely.
With that. So with the Memory Collective itself, what exactly do you do and how long does it last? And
yeah, so in that hour and a half, I think this is another thing that may help people to decide if this is right for them or not. For an hour and a half, our focus is on one topic, but there's a lot of socializing and discussion that can interject and occur within that theme. Whereas the later stages of dementia, activities need to be, 20, 30 minutes, sometimes 45 minutes long. So this one, people can stay engaged in much longer. And when you think of the terminology collective memory, that is a shared pool of memories, knowledge, information in a social group. And that's exactly what this is. We're memory collective because we're coming together. We're wanting to share the strengths of each person. And each quarter has a theme, but within that, we really go deep into that theme, whether it's talking about culture or music or history of something, art of a certain topic. So it is the opportunity for all of us to learn from each other, but as well as get to know each other.
I love that. To me, it sounds like a group of friends getting together. When I think of collective memory, you kind of feed off one another and, tell your own story. And so those are very intimate conversations. Even though they can be fun and uplifting, you really get to know somebody, what they like, what they don't like, what their history is, all of those types of things, which, today we live in a pretty superficial world, and I think a lot of people are missing out on that. I mean, I even think of our kids, sitting there texting. They're not going so deep typically in their conversations.
Right.
And I'm sure there'll be some people that are like, you're stereotyping, and I am. Not everybody falls into one category.
Lori, one of the things, not everybody may relate to this, but maybe some of you, this will draw up something from your past. But I relate what we're doing to what I grew up with. I'm a dairy farmer's daughter from southern Minnesota. And back in the 60s, people used to stop by for coffee. It wasn't scheduled. It wasn't on the calendar. It was a knock on the door. How are you doing? Do you have some time to visit? And it was casual, and it was done very sincere with homemade goodies, because my mom with 6 kids always had something baked. And I really see it as that. And when you talk about how superficial our world is, it's amazing how deep some of our conversations actually can go, and how much all of us in our Memory Collective group want to express our own thoughts on something that's dear to us, but you don't naturally get into those conversations when things are done in short spurt. Give us a platform to do that.
Well, and I think, when you're talking, kind of about growing up, you didn't need a formal invite. Everybody was a welcome, and everyone was respected. And, conversations could be light or they could be deep. It just depended on what people needed. And you're giving them a safe, comfortable place to be their authentic self, and most importantly, to be heard. I think that's one of the biggest complaints I hear is nobody listens to me. They don't value my opinion or my thoughts. They don't even give me eye contact half the time, and let me feel like I'm part of the conversation. And to be able to give that back to people, that is massively, massively huge. I know for myself, I didn't understand that to the depth that I needed to until my mom had moved into a nursing home, which really wasn't our family's plan. She was going to stay with us, and then one day she woke up and said that's where she wanted to go because my dad ended up being there because he had to be due to a fall. And, I was still a little resistant, thinking, I could care for her better. But it was seeing her interact with her peers and to give people that peaceful place where they have friendships, they have peers, they're with like-minded people who understand and are willing to listen to them, and not just listen, but really hear them, really be interested. Because I think sometimes we get those, we pretend like we're listening, but we get that dazed over look and we're doing 12 other things just to say, well, we let them be heard, but you didn't listen. And there's a big difference. Right. And people with dementia at all ages, I still think can really tell the difference in that, because there's so many nonverbals that we're giving off, with that. So that's very pretty cool. So, your Lyngblomsten is located in Minnesota here. So where do you go to participate in the collective? Is it in person? Is it virtual? There's so much of that zigzaggy stuff going on right now with COVID still in our lives.
Exactly. So we are doing, every quarter, we're offering 2 sessions. And the sessions are 8 weeks long. Of those, 7 are over Zoom for an hour and a half. On the 8th week, we meet in person. And it's in a location related to the theme. So our first quarter, we just wrapped up last week, and that was on Minnesota Fun Facts. And we had an opportunity to do the Minnesota History Center behind-the-scenes tour, which was really very cool. But of the group, only half of them chose to come in person, which, honestly, there's the freedom to decide, am I okay with meeting in person at this time, or do I feel safer over Zoom only? And I think because of the 7 weeks of having the opportunity to get to know the group, some felt it was okay to miss that last one. For others, that time of being together, you can tell they're longing for it very much so. I will always wear my mask out in public because of my own immune system, but the group chose to everyone wear their masks, and it just turned out to be a wonderful time. So an hour and a half each time, 7 weeks over Zoom. And if for some reason something happened when we were supposed to get together in person, we'd go ahead and meet over Zoom. So it's 8 weeks, and there's 2 different days they can choose from.
Okay. So let me ask you this. When it comes to the topic, initially I thought there was like a different topic each time, but is there a big general topic and then each session is kind of a subtopic of the bigger topic?
That is exactly correct. So what ends up happening is the first quarter we've chosen to have it be about the fun facts. The second quarter is on sports. The third quarter is on travel. The fourth quarter is on nature. And then in each of those, the 8 weeks are all differently. Are all different. We have a week where we talk about the history of. So when we start sports, we'll be talking about the history of sports in Minnesota. We'll also talk about the music of sports 1 week. We'll talk about the art of sports 1 week. the culture of sports, and boy, did I learn a lot when I dug into that, including how much sports actually does for our society. And so that was wonderful. We have a guest speaker that comes. We do an intergenerational week, and then we have our outing. So it gives us an opportunity to dig deeper, but I really encourage the group to interrupt as much as they want. There is no requirement that we get through what I have. It's really just giving us an opportunity to have something as a basis for conversation, but it's okay if we branch off from that. It's really difficult to get together with a group and not have a theme, because sometimes you have a hard time knowing where to go with the conversation. And this gives a framework each time, gives intentionality. The folks know what the topics are going to be. If they have something they want to talk about, they bring it to that topic as well. And it has worked out really well. It's amazing the depth that you can take into each of these. And I've actually enjoyed it quite a lot.
Well, what I like is the flexibility, because that way the group really gets to take on their own persona. Each of them, can add to it. It's not overly structured. You really get into storytelling and life lessons and experiences and, all of those types of things. And when you were talking about the sports of music, right away, I'm picturing my mom, even towards her, the end stages of dementia, singing along with "Take Me Out to the Ballpark," and this big smile on her face and glint in her eyes. And, those things are so powerful because, like you said, all of these topics are, you can't escape them. They're embedded in all of us, but they're embedded in different ways. And it allows to bring up cultural differences and, just a little bit of everything. Even, your experience is probably going to be different in terms of where did you live in the cities, or what was your economic status, or did you have a wood by you or a park by you, is probably going to make a difference in the whole nature piece. Or did a family have a cabin? I can see those conversations going all over the place. And maybe I'm wrong in terms of what you're doing, and please correct me if I'm off on that.
No, that's exactly correct. And we've had people that have grown up in other states. We've grown up with some that have had some real struggles with diversity based on who their family is or their cultural differences. And so, some of those strong emotions have come out. And honestly, I think that to me signifies a true friendship, because when all you talk about is the weather, you aren't bonding on something that might hold you together. Whereas when you start getting into deep subjects and you hear everybody supporting that person and saying, wow, that had to be hard, and gosh, I hadn't really thought about it, but now when you bring it up, it kind of reminds me my ethnicity, actually, we were the butt of jokes when I was growing up. So it really, it's had a positive, like I said, it allows for you to get to know people at a different level. It then increases trust, and it feels like true friendship. And that's what we all long for anyway.
Exactly. And I remember in the beginning when, people were meeting virtually online with different dementia groups, professionals and family members very much poo-pooing that you cannot develop real connections. And I'm like, oh, you guys are so wrong. You are so wrong, because their conversations are really authentic, and they're deep, and sometimes they're emotional, and they're funny, and they're just a
Absolutely.
little bit of everything. And so I'm a big believer. Granted, it's nice to meet in person, but not everybody can. Not everybody has
Correct.
transportation, or maybe they're sick and they don't want to pick something up or give something away, to somebody else. But
Exactly.
just that they can still participate. There's a value on so many levels with all of that.
Yeah.
Now,
when we were doing a Zoom session in the middle of COVID, the first time that we met, I will never forget, we had 5 or 6 groups that met each week that I and Andrea Lewandowski facilitated, and there were tears. People seeing each other again, being able to see smiles, sing together, do exercises together. It was so powerful. And the other thing that I think is important is some people have memories of doing Zoom as a family and finding that their person couldn't really get into the conversation. And I would beg families to give this a try. It's different because we're seeking out each person. We want their input. I'm facilitating to get them engaged, where I think it's not uncommon that families kind of get into this zone and you kind of pick up on who's the one that talks all the time, who's the one that jokes all the time. And those that are quieter, which often becomes our folks with dementia, they get left off to the side. So, of course, if they're not engaging, it's because people haven't engaged them or in a way that's positive. So, no, I believe in the power of just being together however we can.
Yeah, I really agree with you on that whole family dynamic thing, because we all have our roles and they come up, and there's intimidation and things that can happen. And when you're starting fresh, it just evens the playing field out. Nobody's one step higher on the hierarchy type scale, or their opinion rules the family, because a lot of families have that situation going on. So yeah, I agree, and I think part of it is teaching families, like you said, to speak differently and to listen. Sometimes it's not even speaking; it's the listening part. I think that sometimes is really missed on things. So, for people participating, do they have to be in Minnesota? And if so, do they have to be in certain counties? Or
so this is an enrichment class. So technically, no, they don't have to be from Minnesota. Not many of us can travel for an in-person session, so they may only make the 7 weeks. It'd be great if they were from St. Paul or Minneapolis or the suburbs, but I also, because I grew up rural, I know there are many people that don't have the opportunities that you have living in the city. So honestly, you're signing up on your own. I'm not doing an assessment. So yeah, go for it. If it's of interest, if it's something you're curious about, I say come on board. Give it a try.
Yeah, I like that attitude too. I know that there's, a lot of grants and things, and they have to stay within their parameters. And it's like, why are we limiting who we're caring for? I mean, I get that that's a priority. You want to kind of feed your own neighborhood and stuff. But gosh, we've expanded past that. And if this is something that can help others, I think it's really important to invite people in and see things expand too, because you never know where your next clients are coming from anyways. Just because they don't live in the neighborhood today doesn't mean they won't tomorrow. So
or they haven't lived in this area in the past. They may have, like you talked about, they may be a Minnesota cabin person, or they may have had an uncle who lived in Minnesota that they saw in the summers, or they may have always wanted to come to Minnesota and not. And so, our theme is around Minnesota. But of course, even in our participants currently, that doesn't mean that they all, for example, love a specific sports team. So there gets to be a little bit of razzing or having fun, which to me, again, that's what friendship is about, is just trying to find ways to have fun or have a very sincere conversation.
Oh, I agree. I totally agree. So now you said you've got a couple of programs, coming up every quarter and stuff. So has one already started? Or is there an opening for a new one, and can somebody, come in midway? How does all of that work?
Yeah, so I'd love to share a little bit about that. We just wrapped up our first quarter. Our second quarter will begin the first week of May. And right now, my groups are happening on Thursday afternoon from 1 to 2:30. Or Friday morning from 10 to 11:30. Will I learn something that will change how we do this? Likely. That's what happens. As you go, you gain insights. But I ended up choosing Thursday afternoon and Friday mornings because we all know there are some people that don't do well in the morning, and we all know that there's some people that do better after they get going a little bit, and they're better in the afternoon. So I wanted that option, but also for the outing, so many places are not open now until Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And so in order to do an outing, that limited the days that I could do this. Our next session starts on May 5th, Thursday afternoon, or May 6th, Friday morning. And you choose one or the other. They go for 8 weeks, so we will end on June 23rd day or June 24th, that Friday. And that will be the sports theme. Then we will start our summer quarter on July 14th and 15th, and we'll end that actually on September 1st and 2nd. It's hard to avoid these holidays, so I had to put the puzzle together here. We will actually start our fall quarter on September 29th and September 30th in order to be done the week before Thanksgiving. So we will end November 17th and November 18th. So that is how things are shaping up. And would it be okay, Lori, if I shared a little bit of how we came to doing the Memory Collective?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, that was something I wanted to ask you, because I think this is just such a wonderful, wonderful program that you put together. So I always like to know, kind of the backstory. So please.
Yeah, so the gathering has been something that we've run since the year 2000. We won state recognition as well as national recognition for that program. And, of course, during COVID, we did take a pause for that. It's back going again, 3 different days of the week, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. During COVID, we started groupie respite for those that, as we believe many need or it's beneficial to have socialization. So we started those 5-6 groups of groupie respite to at least give the caregiver a pause and give us an opportunity to socially connect with our people from the gathering and from the community that needed that. But also, if I go back, I've done this almost 2 decades. If I go back, there was a time, and I don't have the exact year, but I'm going to say close to 10 years ago now, I ran a pilot on Summit Avenue for a year that was just an early memory loss program. I did it with a U of M nursing doctoral student, and we learned a great deal at doing that program. Of course, back then it was in person every time, and we never dreamed about doing something over Zoom. But it can be a little harder to do the early memory loss programs to sustain them. And so trying to imagine how we could continue with our success over Zoom for programming, the Memory Collective started to develop out of that. And, you think back maybe to the first time your doctor might have mentioned that, you have dementia or you have Alzheimer's or you have whatever type of dementia you have. But if you were early enough in that process, did they give you a list of activities that you could do? Or did they say, we'll see you again in another year? And then you wonder what to do with yourself. And you want to be a part of groups, but things have changed. Maybe bridge is a little bit more complicated than what it used to be for you, or physically, maybe some of the activities you used to do, like tennis, have become difficult for you to play. So some of those social groups have changed. And so what we are saying is we intentionally wanted a group. And again, I'm going to stress that this is an enrichment group. This is not requiring an assessment. We wanted to form a group intentionally for people early on in this, a way to keep exploring and learning. An intentional program designed especially for those early in the journey. And Andrea Lewandowski and myself developed this program. We both have a long history of working with people in dementia, and we want to keep life interesting. So how could we collectively create opportunities to express those memories? And how could we do that to look at it holistically? And that's why we chose some of the topics that we did, to kind of hit on a variety of people's interests. And so it has been through, collectively between Andrea and I, it's probably 3 decades of experience in putting this together. Now, that doesn't mean this is seamless, because whenever you allow for flexibility and people to jump in, that means that the river flows where the river flows. And although I do facilitate to make sure that everybody gets a chance to be active throughout the process, it still is that we may not finish that topic that week because we ended up having a more interesting conversation on something else. So our goal is to have satisfaction with interaction, something that people felt good about when they left, and a feeling of connection.
I love that. And, your point about, leaving the doctor's office with, being told everything you can't do, or in no resources, no connections in terms of what you still can do and the possibilities. I mean, I just started a Dementia in the Arts group, and oh my gosh, it's fabulous what people can do who have never been artists. Some of them should actually be commissioned, and just approaching it at a whole different angle of you're still able to connect. And, life is about adaptation. And anyone who thinks it's not needs to look at their life a little closer, because that's what we all do in all different situations. We're constantly adapting to fit in or to be heard, or whatever the situation is. And I think it's done so subtly, people forget that we're constantly in that mode. And when you've got a chronic illness, we need to be more conscious about that. And
Right.
I love what you're doing with the Memory Collective. It makes so much sense. I was going to give a plug out for one other group that some of your people might be interested in. And I don't know if you've heard of it, but when you brought up sports, there's a program called Baseball Memory Programs. And that's all they do is they talk about the history of baseball, from the equipment to whatever. And it's like a memory cafe thing, and it's free. And I'll just give out the URL for it. It's SABRBaseballmemories.org. And I had interviewed them on a show, ages ago. But, he talked, too, just about this fascination about the reminiscing and the storytelling and how much he learned from, the people in the group, because that's what happens when you share your stories. You learn from one another. You expand your mind. You expand your heart. And everybody walks out, I think, a better person. And so,
without a doubt.
Yeah. So I love what you're doing, and I am thrilled. Your company, Lyngblomsten, is behind this. They always do amazing work, and really look at that second half of life, and what is still possible. How do we bring joy? How do we bring connections? And adding this program is an absolute perfect fit. Now, for website, they can go to lyngblomsten.org/community-services/Memory Collective. And if you can't remember all that, don't worry, because we've got that information down for you on the blog and the radio show. But you can also email Carolyn at Klavera, and that's Klaver @lyngblomsten.org. And is there a phone number that's okay to give out? I had one down here, but
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
so I have that down.
651-414-5291.
Okay, that's what I have down, so we're good on that too. So wonderful. Well, thank you so much. This has just been so fun to talk to you. I always learn something every time we speak, and I really, really appreciate all the work that you do, and the creativity of, how do we serve better is kind of always at the tip of your tongue and your heart, and it comes off in everything you do, Carolyn. So I hope you know how much people here in Minnesota and in the Twin Cities in particular that I can speak to, through our senior groups and our, Roseville AD group and things, how much you are appreciated, because you are a true gem of not only a professional, but just a person at the whole. So again, kudos to you. You really
well, I do feel we have a strong community here. There's a lot of people that have a heart for this work. And I say it that way because I feel you're called to do this work, Lori. There's many of us that have been on Roseville AD together. We're all called to do this work. We're not doing it because someone told us we had to do it. And to me, those are the people you want to surround yourself with when you're having a change in life, because those are the people that will uplift you. So thank you for your kind words, Lori.
Yeah. Well, I totally agree. Well, to our listeners, I hope you like, click, and share this. Don't be shy. Share the nuggets. That's, it improves all of our lives when we share the nuggets of what's available and what can be done to improve life with dementia. So, again, Carolyn, thank you so much for your time today, and keep up the great work.
Thank you. Take good care.
You too. So we are going to hear from the Adaptive Equipment and Caregiving Corner quick here, and they're going to be talking about the foot-bar walker. If you know of anyone who has mobility issues, you need to check them out.
I love the footbar walker, and let me tell you why. It is the option for my toolbox that I've been waiting for. Let's be honest, there are some clients who, despite our best rehab efforts, just aren't able to return to performing a sit-to-stand transfer on their own. Now I can offer my caregivers an easier, safer option that doesn't involve hoisting their loved one up from a sitting position. I don't recommend this walker for all of my clients, but I do recommend this walker for those caregivers looking for an easier, safer option with transfers. I would also encourage other therapists to add this walker to their toolbox. It's kind of like having my own mobile parallel bars for the client to pull up on. Whether it's a family caregiver at home helping a loved one with Parkinson's or dementia, CNAs in a long-term care facility assisting their patients, or therapists adapting to client and caregiver-specific needs, we now have a very safe and effective option to offer in the footbar walker. Check this product out at thefootbarwalker.com. That's it for today from Adaptive Equipment and Caregiving Corner. Have a great day, and don't forget, if you can't do it, adapt it.
I absolutely love that footbar walker, and I love the Adaptive Equipment Caregiver Corner. They have so many resources and great videos to check out. So, if you're having a hip or a knee redone or so many other things, we are going to hear from the ALZ authors, and then we are going to all part ways, and we will talk on Thursday.
Hello, podcast listener. If you're caring for a loved one with Alzheimer's or dementia, you'll want to check out ALZ Authors, the global community of authors writing about Alzheimer's and dementia from personal experience. We have the most comprehensive collection of hundreds of carefully vetted books and blogs covering all types of dementia and caring situations. Our authors' personal stories and painfully learned lessons can help you on your own journey. We also offer a fabulous podcast called Untangling Alzheimer's and Dementia, which you can find on any of your podcast platforms. Remember, you are not alone. One can sing a lonely song, but we chose to form a choir and create harmony. Find us at alzauthors.com.
Have a wonderful day, everyone. Talk soon. Bye-bye. Well, hi, I'm Lori LeBay, and I wanted to tell you about Alzheimer Speaks, which is another great podcast. You see, my own mother lived with dementia for 30 years, and I felt lost. Did you know every 3 seconds someone in the world is being diagnosed with dementia? Odds are it's going to hit your families too. We want to help you connect to services, products, tools, research, and stories so you can be prepared. Please subscribe to Alzheimer Speaks on your favorite podcast platform.